Maria stood alone on the cliff's edge, the vast ocean sprawling before her, as if mirroring the tumultuous expanse of her own thoughts. The sea breeze tugged at her hair, whispers of salt and freedom that contrasted sharply with the storm raging in her heart. This place, a sanctuary of solitude, had witnessed the unravelling of her and Jack's story, a tale that had begun with promises whispered under starlit skies, only to be smothered by the shadows of unspoken fears and unyielding control. As she watched the waves crash against the rocks below, a voice from the past echoed in her mind, a ghostly reminder of the love she once thought would conquer all. "Maria, with you, I feel like I can face anything. You're my beacon in the darkest nights. And you're my shelter, Jack. Together, we're invincible." Those words, once a source of comfort, now felt like chains. Maria recalled the subtle shifts, the gradual erosion of her identity under the guise of love and protection. Jack, who had promised to be her haven, had... One evening, not long before the unravelling began, they had sat across from each other at their modest kitchen table, their sanctuary away from the world's chaos. The air was heavy with unspoken truth. "Jack, we need to talk. It's about us, about how we communicate." Jack's eyes, once filled with warmth, flickered with a cold light she had grown to dread. "What about it? I'm doing everything for us, Maria. You know that. It's just, sometimes I feel like I'm losing myself, like my voice doesn't matter." "Losing yourself? Maria, I'm doing everything to keep us together. You saying you don't appreciate my efforts?" His tone, sharp and defensive, cut through her, silencing the words she had mustered the courage to say. It was a pattern all too familiar. Her attempts to bridge the chasm between them only widened it. The memory faded as Maria turned her gaze back to the horizon. The realization that she had allowed her voice to be drowned out by Jack's overwhelming presence was a bitter pill to swallow. The man she loved, the man she had vowed to stand by, was a stranger cloaked in the familiarity of shared memories. It was on a day much like this, with the ocean's roar as her witness, that Maria made a vow to herself, a vow of rediscovery and resilience. "This isn't the love I dreamed of. Love shouldn't cost me my voice, my identity." With the resolve of one who has seen the depths of her despair and chosen to rise, Maria turned her back on the sea, its waves now a symbol of her own strength and renewal. The path ahead was uncertain, fraught with the pain of letting go and the daunting task of rebuilding herself from the wreckage of what was. But the echoes of the past, though haunting, would no longer dictate the melody of her future. As she walked away from the cliff's edge, the weight of her decision bore down on her, yet within her heart, a flame of hope flickered to life. A beacon guiding her through the darkness towards a dawn of her own making. The morning after Maria's solitary vigil at the cliff's edge greeted her with a slate-grey sky, the sun a mere suggestion behind the thick curtain of clouds. The world around her seemed to hold its breath, mirroring the tumult of emotions warring within her. Today was the day she would confront the reality of her situation with Jack. The day she would finally voice the fears and desires she had kept buried under the guise of a peaceful existence. As she sat at the edge of their shared bed, watching Jack sleep, the shadows under his eyes spoke of battles fought in silence, of dreams deferred and a love that had turned into a cage. The man she had fallen in love with, whose laughter had once filled their home with light, was now a stranger to her, a reflection of the man she wanted him to be, not who he had become. Maria whispering to herself, "Can love survive when it becomes a battleground for control? Can we find our way back, or is this where our paths diverge?" With a resolve that belied her trembling heart, Maria brewed 2 cups of coffee, the aroma of familiar comfort in the unfamiliar territory she was about to navigate. She placed a cup beside Jack, gently stirring him awake. Jack groggily, "Morning, what's all this?" "We need to talk, Jack. It's important." Jack's eyes narrowed, a defensive barrier rising as he sensed the seriousness in her tone. "What's wrong now, Maria? I thought we were okay." "That's just it, Jack. We're not okay. I feel like I'm walking on eggshells around you, losing bits of myself to keep the peace. I miss us, the real us, before fear and control took over our love." Jack sat up, the weight of her words settling between them like an uninvited guest. "So, what? You're blaming me for everything. I've been doing my best here, Maria." "It's not about blame, Jack. It's about recognizing that we've both been hurting in silence. I love you, but I can't live like this, feeling disconnected from myself and from you." The air between them was charged with a palpable tension, the unsaid words and unresolved issues looming large. Jack looked away, his jaw clenched, the silence a testament to the chasm that had formed between them. "I don't want us to become strangers, Jack, but I can't drown in this relationship. I need space to find myself again, to remember who I am outside of use." Jack's defenses slowly crumbled under the weight of her sincerity, his eyes reflecting a turmoil that mirrored her own. I don't know how to be without you, Maria, but I don't want to be the reason you lose yourself." And in that moment of raw vulnerability, they saw each other, not as adversaries, but as two souls lost in the labyrinth of their shared history, yearning for a way out. Maybe, in finding ourselves, we'll find a way back to what we once had. Or maybe we'll find new paths to walk, separately but whole. Either way, I need to do this. For the conversation that followed was a delicate dance of tears, truths, and tentative hopes for the future. Maria and Jack confronted the ghosts of their past, acknowledging the pain and the love that had bound them together. As Maria left their home that day, her heart heavy yet hopeful, she stepped into the unknown with the dawn of her awakening lighting the way. She knew the journey ahead would be fraught with challenges, but for the first time in a long time, she felt like the protagonist of her own story, ready to reclaim her voice and her life. The house felt eerily quiet in Maria's absence, each room echoing with the remnants of conversations and confrontations that had painted the fabric of their lives together. Jack found himself wandering from one room to another, lost in a sea of memories that now felt like artifacts from a bygone era. The silence was suffocating, a constant reminder of the chasm that had opened up between him and Maria. As he sat alone at the kitchen table, where they had shared countless meals and dreams, the weight of her words bore down on him. The realization that he might be the cause of her pain, the architect of their mutual prison, was a bitter pill to swallow. He poured himself a drink, the amber liquid promising temporary respite from the storm of emotions brewing within. How did we get here? Where did I lose myself? Lose us? The walls seemed to close in on him, each photo on the mantel a testament to happier times, now tinged with the sorrow of what had been lost. In a moment of desperation, he reached for his phone, dialing the number of the one person he thought might understand. His brother, Alex. Alex picking up. "Jack, is everything okay?" "No, Alex, it's not. It's Maria. She's gone. She said she needed space to find herself again." "I'm sorry to hear that, Jack, but maybe this is a wake-up call for both of you." Jack bristled at the suggestion, the familiar surge of defensiveness rising within him. "What's that supposed to mean? You think this is my fault?" Alex gently. "Not fault, Jack, but reflection. Maybe it's time to look inward, to see if there's something in your behavior, in your control, that push." The conversation with Alex was a turning point for Jack, a mirror held up to the darkest parts of himself he had long refused to acknowledge. The descent into his own psyche was a journey fraught with denial, anger, and ultimately, as the days turned into weeks, Jack found himself isolated, not just from Maria, but from the world. He turned to the one outlet that had always offered him solace in the past, his writing. The blank pages before him became a canvas for his pain, each word a step deeper into the abyss of his own making. Jack writing, "I built walls to protect us, but those walls became our prison. I wielded control like a shield, but it was a sword that cut us both deeply. The act of writing was cathartic, a purging of the emotions he had bottled up for so long. But it was also a stark revelation of the patterns of behavior that had contributed to their downfall. The legacy of his father's temper and his own fears of inadequacy had woven a complex tapestry of anger and control that he had unwittingly wrapped around Maria and himself. In the depths of his solitude, Jack was forced to confront the uncomfortable truth that the love he had for Maria was tainted by his own insecurities and need for control. It was a descent not into madness, but into a painful awareness of the role he had played in the unraveling of their relationship. I thought I was protecting her, protecting us, but I was suffocating us both. Can I change? Do I even know how? The chapter closes with Jack at a crossroads, the depths of his descent revealing the possibility of redemption, but only if he is willing to confront the darkest parts of himself and embark on the arduous journey towards change. The silence of the house, once oppressive, now offers a quiet space for reflection, a chance to rebuild from the ruins of his own making. The descent into the depths of his own soul left Jack raw and exposed, each day a confrontation with the man he had become. It was during one of these long, introspective evenings that Jack stumbled upon an old, dusty book on relationships and communication that Maria had once suggested they read together. He had dismissed it then, too caught up in his own certainties about love, and now it seemed like a lifeline thrown across the chasm of his ignorance. As he turned the pages, a passage struck him like a bolt of lightning, illuminating the dark corners of his understanding. True strength lies not in dominion over others, but in mastery over oneself. Love that seeks to control is like a vine that strangles the tree. Mastery over oneself. Have I ever even tried that? The words echoed in the silent room, a challenge to the narrative he had constructed around his actions and their justification. It was a revelation that shook the very foundations of his beliefs about love, control, and protection. The next day, Jack reached out to a therapist, Dr. Simmons, whose number he had found in the back pages of the book. Making the call was like admitting defeat, yet also a declaration of his willingness to change. "Hello, Jack. How can I assist you today?" I've been reading, reflecting. I think I've been controlling, maybe even abusive, in my relationship. I don't want to be that person anymore." The admission was a balm to his wounded ego. The first step on a path he knew would be arduous and fraught with challenges. Acknowledging that is a significant first step, Jack. It's not easy to confront these aspects of ourselves. What do you feel led you to this behavior? Fear, I think. Fear of not being enough, of losing her. I thought I had to keep everything in check to protect us. It's common to confuse control with care, but control isolates and diminishes. It's about finding security in oneself, not in the management of others. Their conversations, initially a trickle of reluctant admissions, grew into a flood of revelations. Jack began to understand the roots of his behavior, a tapestry of past hurts, unmet needs, and misconceptions about strength. In one session, Dr. Simmons challenged Jack to redefine his understanding of strength. Consider the idea that true strength might lie in vulnerability, in the ability to express needs and fears without resorting to control. Vulnerability. I've always seen it as a weakness. It's a common misconception. Vulnerability is the courage to be seen, truly seen, by ourselves and others. It's the foundation of genuine connection. This idea was revolutionary to Jack. The thought of vulnerability as courage rather than weakness began to dismantle the walls he had built around his heart. As he continued to peel back the layers of his behavior, Jack found himself facing the pain and insecurity that had driven him to control Maria. He realized that his actions, though motivated by a desire to protect, had instead how my affecting aloud in therapy, seeing her made me grasp tighter, but all I did was push her away. I need to learn to hold love gently, not grip it with fear. Dr. Simmons nodded, her eyes reflecting the depth of Jack's realization. That's a beautiful insight, Jack. Love thrives in freedom, not in confinement. Learning to trust in that freedom is part of your journey now. The chapter closes with Jack sitting alone in his living room, the book that started his journey of revelation lying open on his lap. The darkness outside is no longer oppressive but filled with stars, each one a beacon of hope for his Jack understands that the path to change is long and uncertain, but for the first time he feels equipped to walk it. He is no longer seeking to control the narrative of his life, but to participate in it authentically, vulnerably. Jack's journey of self-discovery and change had become the most challenging quest of his life. Each session with Dr. Simmons peeled back layers of his persona, revealing not just the flawed foundations of his behavior, but also glimpsing the person he could become. It was during one of these sessions that Jack encountered a pivotal moment in his transformation. Jack, I want you to think about the moments when you feel the urge to control. What emotions are driving that need? Jack pondered, delving into the memories of arguments and silent treatments that had punctuated his relationship with Maria. It's fear and inadequacy. I'm terrified of not being enough, of being abandoned. So I tighten my grip, thinking it'll keep us together. And has that approach ever truly felt satisfying? Has it brought you closer? Jack shook his head, a bitter laugh escaping him. No, it's pushed her away, made me feel lonelier. What if, instead of tightening your grip, you tried opening your hand? What are you afraid would happen? That she'd leave? But holding tight hasn't stopped that, has it? This exchange marked a turning point for Jack. He began to understand that control was a mirage, offering the illusion of security, but ultimately leading to isolation. Emboldened by this revelation, Jack took a bold step. He started attending a support group for individuals struggling with similar issues. The first meeting was daunting. He sat in a circle of strangers, each with their own story of pain and hope. Welcome, everyone. Let's start by sharing something we've learned about ourselves this week. When his turn came, Jack felt a surge of vulnerability, but remembered Dr. Simmons' words about the strength it represented. I've learned that my need to control comes from a deep-seated fear of not being enough, and that trying to hold on too tightly is actually what's been pushing my loved ones away. Nods of understanding and murmurs of agreement circled the room. For the first time, Jack didn't feel alone in his struggles. Encouraged by his progress, Jack decided to take his transformation outside the confines of therapy and support groups. He started practicing mindfulness, learning to stay present with his emotions rather than reacting to them impulsively. One evening, as he meditated, Jack envisioned himself standing at a crossroads. One path was worn, comfortable but leading back to a cycle of fear and control. The other was new, uncertain, but I've walked the old path for too long. It's time to step into the light, even if it means walking through the unknown. This symbolic choice became a daily affirmation for Jack. He began journaling, each entry a testament to his struggles and victories. The act of writing provided a tangible way to track his progress and reflect on his journey. One day, he penned a letter to Maria. It wasn't an attempt to win her back, but an expression of his newfound understanding and apology for the pain he had caused. Maria, I've begun to understand the depth of my actions and the pain they've caused you. This journey of change I'm on is not about seeking forgiveness or a second chance, but about acknowledging the hurt I've inflicted. I'm learning to let go, not just for you, but for myself. He never mailed the letter, choosing instead to keep it as a reminder of his commitment to change. As the chapter closes, Jack stands before a mirror, not recognizing the man he used to be. The transformation was not just internal. It reflected in his eyes, which once held a storm, now showed a calm sea. He realized that true strength lay in the courage to change, to admit flaws, and to work tirelessly towards becoming a better version of himself. This realization was his beacon, guiding him through the transformation that once seemed insurmountable. Months had passed since Jack embarked on his journey of self-discovery and transformation. The man who once sought to control was now learning to let go, to navigate the ebb and flow of life with a newfound resilience. His efforts in therapy, mindfulness, and support groups had not only altered his perspective, but had slowly started to reshape his world. Yet, amidst this personal revolution, a lingering question haunted him. Could he bridge the vast chasm that had opened between him and Maria? It wasn't about rekindling a romance, but about seeking closure and perhaps offering a gesture of One crisp autumn morning, Jack decided to reach out to Maria. He picked up his phone several times, each attempt weighed down by the gravity of what he wanted to say and the fear of reopening old wounds. Finally, he settled on sending a text, a medium that felt less intrusive. Maria, I've been doing a lot of work on myself. I understand if you don't want to, but I'd really appreciate the chance to talk. No expectations, just a conversation. He hit send before doubt could seize him again. Now, it was out of his hands. Hours turned into days with no response. Jack wrestled with disappointment and anxiety, but reminded himself that this was part of his journey toward accepting outcomes he couldn't control. Then, unexpectedly, a reply arrived. Jack, I've seen changes in you that I never thought possible. I'm cautious but willing to meet. Of course. Thank you, Maria. How about the park, Saturday afternoon? See you there. Saturday arrived with a mix of dread and hope. Jack found Maria already at the park, seated on a bench overlooking the lake. The autumn leaves painted the scene in hues of gold and crimson, a beautiful backdrop to a moment fraught with vulnerability. Maria, thank you for coming. How have you been? I've been healing, growing. It's been a journey. And you? Much the same. It's been a process of unlearning and relearning, of confronting who I was and who I want to be. The conversation unfolded slowly, each word measured, each sentence laden with the weight of their shared history. Jack spoke of his therapy, his realizations about control and fear, and his commitment to change. I've learned that control was my way of masking fear, fear of not being enough, fear of losing you. But in doing so, I lost you anyway. I'm truly sorry for the pain I caused. Maria listened, her expression a mix of skepticism and surprise. The man before her was familiar yet fundamentally altered. Hearing you acknowledge that means a lot, Jack. I've spent a lot of time working on myself, too, learning to find my voice again, to be whole on my own. I'm glad to hear that, Maria. You deserve all the happiness and peace in the world. I know apologies can't undo the past, but I hope they can be a bridge to forgiveness in time. Forgiveness isn't a switch I can flip, Jack, but I appreciate the effort you're making. It's more than I ever expected. The meeting ended with no promises of future encounters, no declarations of undying love, just an acknowledgement of the growth they had each achieved separately. Whatever the future holds, I wish you all the best, Maria. You've always deserved that. Thank you, Jack. I wish the same for you. Take care. As they parted ways, Jack felt a sense of closure. The bridge he sought to build was not one of reunion, but of mutual respect and acknowledgement of their individual journeys of healing. He had crossed a significant threshold, not back into Maria's life, but into a new understanding of himself and the love he was capable of giving and receiving. The chapter closes on Jack watching the sunset over a lake, the colours of the sky mirroring the tumult and tranquility of his journey. He'd come to understand that the most crucial bridges he needed to build were those within himself, spanning the gaps between who he was, who he is, and who he aspires to be. In the weeks following his meeting with Maria, Jack found himself in a state of reflective solitude. The conversation at the park had been a crucible, testing the strength of his transformations and the sincerity of his intentions. It was a reckoning not just with Maria, but with himself, with the man he had been and the one he was. One late evening, as Jack sat at his desk, surrounded by the quiet of his home, he penned an entry in his journal, a habit that had become a cornerstone of his journey. Today, I feel the weight of my past and the lightness of my future in equal measure. The meeting with Maria was a mirror, reflecting the change within me, but also the long road ahead. It was during these moments of solitude that Jack often received calls from his brother, Alex, who had become an unexpected pillar of support throughout his journey. "Hey Jack, how are you holding up after your talk with Maria?" "It was hard, Alex, but it was necessary. I saw the pain in her eyes, the pain I caused. It's a tough pill to swallow, knowing I can't undo it, but I can learn from it." "That's a huge step, Jack. Admitting our mistakes and learning from them is all we can do. How do you feel about it all?" "I feel hopeful and scared. I've started to build a new foundation, but the fear of slipping back into old patterns is always there." "It's normal to feel that way. Just remember, growth isn't linear. There will be setbacks, but it's how you handle them that counts." Jack pondered Alex's words, finding comfort in their truth. The fear of regression was real, but the commitment to his new path was stronger. In the days that followed, Jack doubled down on his efforts. He volunteered at a local community centre, hoping to channel his experiences into helping others. It was here that Jack met Elijah, a young man struggling with his own issues of anger and control. "I don't know if I can change, man. It feels like I'm wired wrong, you know?" "I understand how you feel, Elijah. I've been there. But believe me when I say, change is possible. It starts with a choice every day to be better than you were the day before." "But what if I fail?" "You will. We all do. It's not about never falling. It's about how you get back up. It's about who you reach out to when you're down." Their conversations became a regular part of Jack's routine, each one a reminder of his own journey and the universal struggle to overcome personal demons. As the chapter closes, Jack stands before a group at the community centre, sharing his story with an honesty and vulnerability he never thought possible. The faces before him, etched with their own stories of pain and hope, were a testament to the power of connection and the possibility of redemption. Our past does not have to define our future. We have the power to rewrite our stories, to build bridges over the chasms of our mistakes, and to find peace within ourselves. Thank you for letting me share mine. The applause that followed was not just for Jack's courage in sharing his story, but for the resonance of his message. A message of hope, of reckoning, and of the relentless pursuit of a better self. The reckoning Jack had faced was not an end, but a beginning, a continual process of becoming, of reconciling who he was with who he wanted to be. It was a journey not just of self-discovery, but of self-creation, a path marked by the footprints of his past, As autumn relinquished its hold to the cold embrace of winter, Jack found himself at a crossroads once again. This time, however, it was not a path marked by uncertainty and fear, but one illuminated by the promise of growth and new beginnings. The transformation within him had taken root, blossoming into a life lived with intention and awareness. One chilly evening, Jack hosted a small gathering at his home, inviting close friends and those who had been instrumental in his journey. The warm glow of the fireplace cast a cozy ambience over the room, a stark contrast to the cold world out. As the night wore on, conversations flowed and laughter filled the air. Jack took a moment to step outside, seeking a moment of solitude under the starlight sky. It was then that Alex joined him, handing him a steaming cup of coffee. "It's good to see you like this, Jack. You've come a long way." "Thanks, Alex. I couldn't have done it without your support and a lot of hard work. Do you ever think about what's next, now that you've, transformed?" Jack sipped his coffee, letting the warmth seep into his bones as he pondered the question. "I think about it a lot. Transformation isn't a destination. It's a continuous journey. There's always more to learn, more to improve. But now, I think I'm ready to make a new promise. A promise. Yeah, a promise to keep growing, to never stop questioning and learning about myself and the world around me. But also a promise to help others who might be struggling like I was. If I can turn my pain into purpose, maybe it can make all the difference for someone else. Alex nodded, a look of admiration in his eyes. That's a powerful promise, Jack. I have no doubt you'll make a profound impact. The conversation shifted to memories of the past, of challenges faced and obstacles overcome. It was a testament to the bonds that had strengthened through adversity, a reminder of the support system that had buoyed Jack through his darkest times. As the evening came to a close and the guests began to depart, Jack felt a sense of fulfillment that had long eluded him. The house, now quiet, seemed to echo with the laughter and warmth of the night. Sitting at his desk, Jack opened his journal to a blank page. He penned a new entry, not just as a reflection, but as a declaration of his intentions moving forward. Jack writing goodnight, surrounded by friends and family. I realized the true meaning of transformation. It's not just about changing oneself, but about how that change can inspire and uplift others. My journey has been one of many lessons, but perhaps the most important is the power of empathy and connection. I've made a promise to myself, a promise to continue growing and to use my experiences to help others find their way out of the darkness. This is not the end of my journey, but the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with hope, purpose, and the promise of a better tomorrow. He closed the journal, feeling a sense of peace wash over him. The journey ahead would undoubtedly hold its share of challenges, but Jack was no longer the man who feared change and uncertainty. He had faced his demons, embraced his vulnerabilities, and emerged stronger and more compassionate. The promise he had made was not just to himself but to the world around him. A pledge to be a beacon of hope, a source of strength, and a testament to the transformative power of self-awareness and relentless pursuit of growth. As the chapter and the book closes, Jack stands at the window, looking out into the night. The stars above, once distant and cold, now seem to twinkle with the promise of infinite possibilities. In this moment of quiet reflection, Jack understood that every ending is also a beginning, and every step taken in darkness is a step toward the light. The promise he had made was a compass, guiding him not just toward becoming the person he wanted to be, but toward a future where every day held the potential for growth, for change, and for love. Months turned into seasons, and the tapestry of Jack's life continued to weave itself into new patterns of growth and understanding. The journey he had embarked upon had reshaped not just his inner world, but had also begun to mend the fractures in his relationships with those he loved. On a serene evening, as the first snow of the year gently blanketed the city, Jack found himself walking the familiar path to the small, cozy cafe where he and Maria had agreed to meet. This was not a rendezvous born out of necessity, but one of mutual desire to reconnect, not as lovers, but as individuals who had shared a significant chapter in each other's lives. "Jack, it's good to see you. How have you been?" "I've been well, Maria, focused on growing, healing. And you?" "I found a new strength, a new voice. It's been liberating, really." Their conversation flowed effortlessly, a testament to the healing that had occurred within and between them. It was during this exchange that Jack felt compelled to share his deepest realization. "Maria, looking back, I see how my actions, my need for control, hurt you deeply. I've been working on myself, trying to understand and change those patterns. I've seen the changes, Jack. It's been surprising, but also inspiring. It takes courage to face oneself and strive to change." The warmth of their dialogue melted the remnants of past resentments, leaving room for something new to flourish. A friendship built on respect and shared growth. "I made a promise to myself and to the people in my life. A promise to be better, to do better. You've been a big part of that journey, even in absence. And I've made a promise too, to never lose myself again, to build a life on my terms. It seems we've both been on parallel paths. The emotional depth of their exchange was punctuated by moments of silence, each filled with a profound understanding that only those who have weathered great storms can share. I guess we've both found our way through the darkness. I hope we can be in each other's lives as friends who support and celebrate one another. I'd like that, Jack. It's not about forgetting the past, but about moving forward with grace and wisdom. As they parted ways that evening, a light snowfall began, each flake a silent witness to the transformation that had taken place. Jack walked home, his heart light, filled with a sense of peace and purpose. In the quiet of his study, Jack reflected on the journey that had brought him to this point. He realized that the most profound changes often come from the deepest wounds. His story, marked by pain and redemption, was a testament to the human capacity for growth and forgiveness. True strength lies in vulnerability, in the courage to face one's flaws and the resolve to change them. It was a lesson learned through trials, but one that had led to a richer, more authentic life. The promises we make to ourselves and to others are the threads that weave the fabric of our character. Today, I renew my promise, not just as a pledge, but as a guiding light. The epilogue closes on Jack, a man transformed by his trials, standing at the window watching the snowfall. The world outside was silent, peaceful, a mirror to his own soul. In this moment of quiet reflection, Jack understood that every ending is a new beginning, and every step taken in darkness brings us closer to the light. His journey was not just a tale of personal redemption, but a beacon of hope for anyone lost in the shadows, searching for their way home.